is with great pleasure and honor that I have the privilege to introduce a great man, a personal mentor of mine and for many people, a leader in Native communities nationally, internationally, and a guiding force for the Seventh Generation Fund. I'd like to introduce Mr. Oren Lyons.
You notice I didn't run up those stairs. Newahaskano. Joa Gwiso and Justa. On the Dagay, no, not Nanga. Tayuni, not Nanga. I'll say thank you for being well. Thank you for being here. My name is Joa Gwiso. Come from Onondaga, Wolf Clan. It's my family. And bring you greetings from home. Our leaders back home are spread out all over, like your leaders are. They seem to be getting busier and busier and busier, and I don't know how that works out, but it does keep us running, and we're running more and more, and everybody's trying to take care of things. And we don't often get a chance to gather up and sit for a while and reflect. The gathering at Onondaga that's taking place right now is the gathering of nations up at the headwaters of the Mississippi. Our very great leader, good friend, Jake Swamp from Mohawk Nation had this vision, and he said that the histories in our life and our background is so heavy with what's happened to our people, and we need to address this, and we need to lift this burden that we carry, all of us carry from our grandfathers and our grandmothers and their grandfathers and their grandmothers. It's a hard story, the story of the people of Turtle Island, the indigenous people. And these people suffered for a long time. And we had a history of that back home, the Haudenosaunee. And we were given a direction long ago, and it was spiritual leader came amongst us. We call him the great peacemaker. And much like what's going on in the world today, as you look about the fighting that's going on, the intensity of the fighting, the senselessness of the fighting, and the spirit that carries that is intensifying, it's gathering momentum. And it was like that way back in those days amongst our own people. We had forgotten our instructions, the original instructions of how to live peaceably amongst one another, to share and to be relatives and brothers and sisters and live a good life. We had forgotten that, and there was fighting going on. That peacemaker came amongst us, and I won't go into the long story except that he brought us together long ago and gave us this instruction that you hear about 7 generations. Among many, he organized the Confederation of the Haudenosaunee. The French call us Iroquois, and the English call us Six Nations, and we ourselves are Haudenosaunee. people of the Longhouse. And the 6 or the 5 original nations came together at that time. And among the leaders, there was a Onondaga leader who had been exiled and banished, and he moved himself away from the village because of the fierce leader within the village that had taken over, this Tadadaho, evil man. Said his hair was filled with snakes, was twisted, couldn't recognize him as a human. He lived in a swamp, great power, great authority. And he had killed his daughters. And so Ayenwenta was out and exiled him, and he was suffering. And he made, he started to condole himself in his suffering. And at this lake, which lies just south of Onondaga today, there were shells. And he said these ducks came and landed, covered the water. And when they flew, they lifted the water, and the shells were there. And he took the shells and he made the beads. We call it wampum. And then he began the process of condoling himself. We call it wiping the tears. And we do this condolence ceremony every time we raise a leader, because we're condoling the family that lost the leader. And so Jake said, you know, we should do this for all the people of Turtle Island. We should bring them together and we should condole them and lift that burden from them so that we can move on and do what we have to do. And that's what's going to be taking place next week up there at the headwaters of the Mississippi. And many of our leaders are there and headed there, and much of our people are coming from the 4 directions and all the way from South America. We really don't know. As you know, Indians call a meeting, you never know who's going to show up. So they'll come, I know, and I'm going to be trying to make that and all the busy schedules we have to do. But the condolence, the event that's going to go on, wiping the tears, clearing the throat, clearing the ears, cleaning the seat, all of these condolences that we go through, each with the wampum, it's going to be done. And we're going to condole one it's another. Those from the west side of the Mississippi, and those from the east side, and those from the south, and those from the north. Those who will be there, this great ceremony is going to go on. And we are all included, we who are here, those who can't travel, those who can't make it. It's being done on behalf of all of us. So that is my first message to you, so you know. And there's great preparation in this. And Jake passed on during the mission. He was down here somewhere when he got sick. And so we're carrying on and we'll finish the mission because it is proper. And when we condole leaders lost, as you all know, you all have lost leaders and you will lose more, and family. Well, this ceremony is very helpful for that. Last up a certain time, and then you move on. You make your condolence and then you move on. You pick up the work and then continue, unencumbered with grief. And so the ceremony is done, or the most important thing. And the continuation of the ceremonies are fundamental. We have here some representatives of the traditional circle of Indian elders and youth, and that whole event was to get back out to the nations and tell them, pay attention to your ceremonies. What we call here the Homefires. The Homefires. Because everything at the end of the day is local. Everything is home. No matter where you are, no matter what you do, it's home. So we have to take care of those fires, and that's the whole purpose of this, is to remind ourselves, the importance of the ceremonies, importance of the language. We have a great gift and a great obligation to carry that on, because the stories of the Hopis, our elder brothers, the Hopis, have these great stories that talk about the corn and who was going to choose the corn. And everybody chose the corn that they wanted, large ears and so forth. And then finally there was one small ear of corn left. And the Hopi said, well, we'll take that. And that corn was the ceremonies. That's what that corn was. To take care of the ceremonies. It was a spiritual part of the creation that our people, all of our people, have been blessed to have that great ability to carry these ceremonies. So important. Beyond anything else, that's your power. That's your authority. That's your strength. The fire. This morning, as my uncle here, Tupac, he says, well, we have a fire. And it was propane, he said. And it was, however, it was the grandfather, it was fire. And what was burning were woods that were there 10 million years ago. That's the fire that was burning this morning. That's what you're burning when you're burning a gas and a coal. So old trees, long ago, they've been sitting down there and they've been making themselves into that energy. And so, there it was. So we know that when we have these kind of meetings, we always, most important part of the meetings is to choose your fire keepers. I'm going to take care of that fire that you kindle. Well, we don't have to watch that fire. It's going on right now. So the fire keepers that I was thinking this morning are ancient. They're ancient fire keepers there, out there. The spirit is there. The grandfather is still there. The fire is still there. From eldest brother to son, that's the connection. So we have to remind ourselves that these times are different from the times of our grandfathers and different from the times of their grandfathers. And as we move back, the times were always different, and our leaders always met those times and they always carried on through. So these are the times that we live in. And these are the times that we have to meet the issues that are here today. For the future, as we talked about, to be a good ancestor, 7 generations. When we're instructed, and they raise the leaders of the Haudenosaunee in the old-fashioned, the old way, there's much ceremony and much instruction. And after the leader has been raised by the consent of the people, instructions are given, and among that was the 7th generation instruction. And he said, when you sit in your council for the welfare of the people, think not of yourself, nor of your family, nor even your generation. Make your decisions on behalf of those faces looking up from the earth. layers and layers and layers of generations looking up onto the seventh generation, he said. It's your responsibility. You take care of them. You then will have peace. And so it's a great lesson of responsibility. And I often thought that it would have been much better. You know, I heard Tupac mention 1776. 1775, the Congress called a meeting in Albany, and they asked the Six Nations to come and talk about this coming war, this battle that was shaping the history of the United States. They called the Revolutionary Wars. It was shaping. And sometime years before that, 1744, in a village called Lancaster in Pennsylvania, the Six Nations was presiding over a meeting. There were 4 governors from New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia. And they were arguing about land as usual. And one of the Onondaga chiefs at that time said to them, Kanesitaga, he said, you know, you people are never going to amount to anything until you learn how to work with one another. He said, why don't you make a union like ours, based on these principles? Peace, equity, power of the good minds, to be united in one thought, one body, one spirit, one heart. It's great authority in unity. And he made those comments in 1744. And moving on to 1775, the Continental Congress kindled the fire. They kindled the meeting. They built the meeting fire. And they said, we are now going to rekindle the great fire for the tree of peace, and we're going to plant this tree of peace here. These are white people talking, isn't that us? And they said, you said to us some years back, and they talked about 1744, they said, you advised us then to make a union like yours. They said, we are now going to take your advice. We are going to make a union like yours. You are wise, you're strong, and they said, we even teach our children about the bundle of arrows. And he was talking then about the peacemaker, because when the peacemaker brought us first together to illustrate the strength of unity, he took an arrow and he broke it. And then he took 5 arrows representing the 5 nations that were sitting there, the Mohawks and Oneidas, Onondagas and the Cayugas, Senecas. And he bound them together with the sinew of the deer. He bound those arrows together tight. And he said, here's your strength. Your strength is in unity. And the leaders of the Continental Congress said, we teach our children about the bundle of arrows. So not only were they teaching about our process, they were teaching about the beginning. So it was clear by their voices that they knew us very well. And indeed, we were the first to greet them. We were the first to meet them coming. And as the history went on and they moved people west of the Mississippi, they couldn't move us, and we're still there. We're still in our homeland. Much smaller, but we're still there. The land is still free. And we still raise our leaders the same way. There's no BIA in our land. And it's hard to hold that in these days. But the condolence when we raise this leader is given at that time. for the family that lost the leader. 5 leaders in a family. We call it clan. Clan mother. What you call a chief, sub-chief, faith keeper, male, faith keeper, female. That's the leader of the clans. Each has a title. The title for that leader is one of the 50 original people that 1,000 years ago. So I sit under the title of Tayat Gwain. And I've been sitting there since 1965, in the Council of Chiefs and Onondaga Nation. And we serve for the lifetime. There's no retirement there. Only way out of that Chiefs Council is feet first. They carry you out the door. And it's service. As all of you know, that when you go home, you serve. And you don't get paid. See these young volunteers here. That's what we all do. You know, I don't know where it come now that people are waiting for pay to do something. And that's not the way. It's always working for the community. That was your strength. And so, we've survived all of this, and we've suffered a great deal. Any one of our histories, in any one of your nations, you can tell a strong story. And each one of those stories would fill volumes of a book. Any one of your nations, every one of your nations has these stories. And they've kept, you know, some better than others, but still here we are today. This is what we see. This is us. What you see is what you get. Here we are, carrying on. So our message to you is to keep those fires burning at home. Home base. Keep your land, protect your land. Land is life. There's no alternative to water, as you know. Water is life. Protect your water. People are crying for water around the earth right now, and it's going to get worse. 1950, I was just a young kid. I was 20 years old, and pretty much just trying to stay out of jail. And I went into the army, and you know, I used to look at that longhouse and I see that smoke coming out there, and I know that they're meeting, the men are meeting. You see the smoke and make you feel better because you know they're meeting. But nobody go there because they didn't want to sit those hours and hours that the leaders sit. So you go by and just look at the smoke and say, yeah, that's good. But eventually all of us get there. Eventually you get to be sitting there, and you get to be carrying that load as your age and your life takes you. And the thing that I regret, you know, most is I wasn't paying attention to the old people trying to instruct me, trying to tell me things, and I was just too busy. I was just going somewhere, you know. Yeah, okay, Grandpa. I wasn't listening. Now I'm trying to remember every word that they said. I sit there and I said, what is it? They told me this. I can't remember. So, you young people, pay attention. Pay attention. You know, your folks are waiting for you to come and ask them questions. They're waiting for you to instruct. And you should take advantage now. Because time is something you can't retrieve. It's gone, it's gone. So pay attention, everybody. This is, in this context of times today, we're in a spiritual battle. This is this very powerful spiritual battle that's going on around the whole world. 1950, 2.5 billion people in the world. 62 years later, there's 7 billion people. You mathematicians don't have to work very hard to crunch those numbers. Still the same amount of water, still the same amount of land, still the same. But 7 billion people, 7 billion souls that's going to need water, is going to need food. Now, I'm going to need shelter. And every second as we sit here, there's 5 more souls born as we're sitting here right now. There's a crunch coming on resource, and especially water. And I don't have to tell the leaders from this section and the people from this section of how important water is. I don't have to tell you. In the Northeast, where I come from, there's so much water. You can turn the faucet on and let it run. From the Northeast or the Eastern nations in Europe, they have to take a bath in a cup of water. And they can do it. They can take a bath in a cup of water. Those people that live in the desert, they know how. So we have to be more aware of what we have here, and we have to be more responsible for what we have today. And you always remember that your leaders are who you put up, and so you want to be careful who you raise for your leaders. And you want to stay right there with them, because in this great condolence ceremony that we have when we raise leaders, and these leaders are judged by the people, by consensus, to take this place. And in this great condolence, when we talk about the responsibilities, we have this opportunity to remind the people of their work. And so during the condolence ceremony, after the condoling of the spirits, then the duties of the clan mother, then the duties of the leader, and then the duties of the people are the longest duties. The people have the most duties to do. The leaders can direct and they can stand there, but they're not the ones. It's you. It's you who will do the work. That's your responsibility. The leaders look to you for support, see if you're there. You know, if a leader's not going into place, he turns around and looks back, there's nobody behind him. Not leading anybody. So that's the responsibility of all of us, to remind one another and to be our own leader. As they said, be your own leader. Think about it. That's what made Indian nations so great, because they're such individuals, as you know, as you live on your own territories, you know how fierce this individualism is. People value that, they understand that. Sometimes it's our worst enemy. Nevertheless, it's always our best strength as well. And so we want our young people to think different. You know, one of the best, would you say, when looking at a young person or watching somebody doing something, probably one of the best things that you can say about them is, oh, he's different. Oh, she's different. That's a great comment for somebody. It's different. Or the artist, when you're making something and somebody says, oh, that's different. And they're talking about your ability to think individually. And so when you have a problem, it's just gathered here, and the problem is so fierce, the leaders don't know. They ask the people. We've been told when the problem is so big, throw it to the people, they'll tell you. And if you're all thinking different, somebody is thinking different enough to meet that problem out there. So you don't put them all in the school and sit them in a row and tell them this is the way you do it. You want them to be different, because they just be the ones that's going to lead you out someplace. So I don't want to carry on except to say that we've taken on some very strong objectives, and that we've carried this doctrine of discovery to the point now where in the last meeting that we had at the UN this past May, there was every effort made to kill that. And 2 years ago when Tanya made her presentation on behalf of us on the doctrine of discovery, it was directly related to the conduct of the United States, but it was the history. And so they put a twist on that, and they said, oh well, this is just for the North Americans. No, this doctrine of discovery, papal bulls from the Roman Catholic Church, the empire, the great empire of the 14th, 15th, 10th, 11th, 12th century, 14th, 15th century, powerful. They were determining who was human and who was not. And it's taken us all these years to finally bring that out to the United Nations. And of course, the United Nations is a big clubhouse of countries. Last thing they want to see is indigenous people talking about the doctrine of discovery. Because what is that? You're challenging the title to the land that they took, the land that they stole. That's what the doctrine of discovery is. That's false, what you're saying. And the most interesting thing about this is that religions, Christian religions, understood that. And the most amazing thing I've seen in this past few years is how they have stepped forward and they said, that's not Christianity, that's not right. First time I ever heard white people say that about India. That's not right. We said, right, it's not right. And so they've joined us on this. The World Council of Churches has taken our position against the doctrine of discovery. Episcopalians, Quakers, they're lining up and they're angry. And they're on our side for once. We have to acknowledge that, you know. Like I say, when you do this condolence, you have to put things aside and move on. Survival today is going to depend on all of us. There's going to be no time for color, black, white, red, or yellow. There's no time for that. We're a family. We've always been family. We can change blood. You can change blood with anyone around this world. Can't get any closer to that. And we have to bring spiritual centers that we hold are the source of the strength of whether we survive or not. And that's your ceremonies, and that's your home fires. And you have to keep them going, because that's the strength that the people are going to depend on in the future, and they're coming. It's going to get pretty hot. The heat is what's going to be the first. We're going to experience some very hard times, very quickly, very soon. And so you have to be prepared. Protect your water, high ground, watch your plants. Remember how to dry food again. It's going to come to that. You're going to go back to dried beans and dried corn, dried meat. And that's the knowledge that we had. I remember we went to Geneva in '77, and the man who called me grandson from Third Mesa, Hopi, David Manyangi. He was old then. He must have been 100 that time, '77. He's over there. And they asked him a question. I remember there were all kinds of media there, and here was this old Hopi man. And they said, what is it that you need? Why are you here? You know, and they were asking him, why? Say, that's your responsibility right there. He's just talking to you. He's just talking to you. And, oh, I don't need much, he said. Just my jug of water, and my few kernels of corn, he said. And my land. That's all I need. And we're going back to that. Simplify how you live, all the complications. You're going back to that jug of water and that few kernels of corn. And you have to think about that. And we know how. We're survivors. We wouldn't be here if we weren't. But we're listening to our brother a little too much now. He's got our ear. Some of our kids on our nation lands, they got new leaders, got their pants dragging on the ground, got their hands on backwards and say, hey, what's up, man? That's a new leader. Be aware. So I just want to encourage you that this organization here, for all of our good, people work hard here, nobody gets anything, the volunteers are there, good staff. We have to support one another now, clearly. We have to clear away problems that we have in between each other and now join together in that common sunrise ceremony. That's the ceremony where all our spirits are together, when the day is just beginning. No bad words, no bad deeds, a new day. And you only have one day at a time. Done it.